Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I had to dump the noon showing and reschedule. Now I have a really good way of letting everybody know. Maybe we should just do, I don't know, maybe a vertical response account, start up like an email blast account. That way I can talk to just you, my folks who show up to these role reveals. Something completely different than I had initially thought that it was going to be, but it is what it is, right? Oh, Farm Dog, Joe McBride, Tim Morrell. How's everybody doing? Levels of Madness. Don't usually see you in here during the day. I'm working on stuff and flips right now. I want to make sure that I get the broadcast started and give everybody a chance to show up. And then I'll get started on the roll. Today's roll is a 1958 D roll. It's original bank wrap roll from the Fed Reserve of Seattle. I'm just stuffing flips and watching for everything to happen, see what's going to happen here. So I figured maybe somebody would pop in and tell a joke or something. Hey, 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 Party Pickle. You're going to go buy a new car. Well, I think that kind of trumps my buy a new microscope that I did the other day, right? I bought a new microscope. It should be showing up, I don't know, probably tomorrow. I don't know. I'm kind of excited only because I want to see that it'll do what I hope it does, or what I hope it will do, and that it's indeed better and definite quality difference from what I have now. It'd be a real boom to me to be able to get something that I can take pictures using the camera that's already mounted to the scope, and it does better than what I have now. That would be just awesome. Because if that works out, then I should be able to get photos of a couple of 100 coins a day if I have to. Try to catch up everything on copper coins before we switch over to a new version of the website, which we should be doing sometime this year. Yeah, Adam Chambers and Jessica. Farm Dog, getting ready for the SpaceX launch. When is that? Is that coming up like here in a few minutes or something? The whole time I lived in Florida, I only saw 2 launches, and both of them were basically spur of the moment thing. You turn on the TV and they say, okay, now live, we're counting down to 30 seconds. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I better get outside and see if I can see that. I did twice. Once was one of the last space shuttle launches back in 2008 or 2009, one of those. I don't remember when exactly. And then the other one was one of the SpaceX launches a couple of years ago. Now from here in North Carolina, I don't expect to see anything, so I'm just going to take it easy here, do my thing. 1 hour or so, okay. 3:33 p.m. Central. Well, that means we got about an hour and a half. Okay, here is my inserts. Here is my roll. I can go ahead and get my keyboard out of the way because I don't think I need it anymore. What did I do with my pad? Hang on just a second. My pads are all occupied. Occupado, they say. I am going to use my mouse pad instead. A couple of coins on top of my mouse pad I have to move. I'm going to use my mouse pad to pour this roll out onto. There we go. Heck, yeah. You notice a difference? All right, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and start opening the roll. It's a 1958 Denver. I expect to find a few different nice little repunch mint marks. There's one known double die obverse. That's a nice one. I do believe there are other double die obverses. I got it in my head that I'm sure they're out there. So far, still haven't found anything for the reverse on these. Hello, Coin Dragon. Steve Patat. We got a crowd. I finally got my hair cut today. Yeah, it was like performing brain surgery. But I got it done. It's almost spooky if we decide that this is going to be our new normal. Because there's just so much to think about. Put your mask on, take your mask off. I had to lift up the mask strap just to cut my sideburns. Just kind of ridiculous stuff, but I guess we have to do what we have to do, right? Okay, these coins look nice. They look pretty nice. All right, for coin number one, let me go ahead and get my bag together. There it is. Get all my names in the bag. And this is reveal number 144. I've got all my names for 144 ready right here. Hello, Eric. And Thomas. All right. John Brandon Bow. John Brandon Bow will get the first coin in the roll. Let's take a look at the first coin and see what it has. See what it is. Ooh, that's a low mint mark. And it is a doubled lower mint mark. Doubled lower serif. You can see it. You zoom in on it here. You can see the doubling on the lower serif right there. It's pretty nice, actually. This one should be a listed one. Where are you? There, now you can see it a lot better. First coin in the roll turns out to be an RPM. All right. Let me zoom it back out. There we go. All right, we've seen an RPM on here, so let's see what we can do for markers. What do we have? We know, okay, there's the upper serif split there too, so it is a split upper and lower serif. So let me see what we can do about finding markers that work for us. Okay, there is a diagonal die scratch above the 9 pointed straight at the chin. So if I can get it turned so that I can see that, yeah, that works. Diagonal die scratch above the 9 that points straight at the chin. Got another die scratch below the T of trust. Bunch of die scratches under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Big old die scratches running right through the ear. Alright, so let's take a look at the reverse on this one. We're going to call this one die 1 for the roll. So our very first coin out of the roll is an RPM. Hoping that is the direction we continue to travel, John Brandon Bow gets himself an RPM as the first coin out of the roll. He's not even here. Hello, Rose Dragon Coins. Alright, let's start making a spot for all my varieties that I'm going to pull out of this roll, because most of them are going to be varieties, right? Shannon comes second. Shannon McCord. Here's Shannon McCord's coin. And let's see. This one is an RPM as well. You can see it there on the lower serif. Makes it very easy to see on the lower serif. This coin is double shiny. It's a very, very high luster coin. Alright, so this one is an RPM as well, so we need to find ourselves a marker. It's a fat mint mark to begin with. And we have north and south die scratches running through the 1/9 of the date. Also have a pair of really nice die scratches below the G of God. We do not have a doubled eyelid, but there is a die scratch in the eyelid area, in the eye area. So I have plenty of things to use there. I'm calling this die number 2 for the roll. And die number 2 for the roll is a normal reverse. They have concentric die scratches there. That happens when they use some sort of a rotary tool to clean the die or to remove die polish lines. Sometimes they end up with die scratches that are centric to this, that are circling the center of the die design. They look like a record, old-fashioned LP record. All right, that's coin number 2 for the roll. Coin number 2, die number 2. We're doing well so far. Doing very well so far. All right, coin number 3. Let's see what coin number 3 is. These things are super coins too. I mean, they're very nice condition. I like the condition. Very nice, superb gem coins. Okay, this one looks like it's going to be normal so far. No doubling on the mint mark. No doubling on the date. No doubling on the I. No doubling on liberty. Got nothing going on so far. Let's take a look at the other side. And taking a look at the other side gives us a normal reverse. Hello, Rithy Yorth. Did I pronounce that right? Rithy Yorth. All right, that one being normal, we're going to put it start a normal stack. And coin number 3 in the roll, and we're just now starting our normal stack. And Robert Adams comes up next. Well, thank you. My name is Chuck. You're watching Copper Coins, the Copper Coins channel. We're doing a roll reveal right now. What we do is periodically, usually on Tuesday evenings during our auction, we will sell spots in an unopened roll of coins. You buy a spot in that roll, and I make a little name card for you. Then I draw the names out of a bag while I'm going through the roll, and you get whatever coin comes up with your name. So if this had been a really valuable double die, then Robert Adams would be getting a really valuable double die. Unfortunately, this appears to be a normal coin. And so he didn't get anything of any big giant surprise this time, but he did get a coin that's well worth the money paid for it. They paid $2 per spot for these. A gem BU in this particular issue is worth at least $4 to $5. And these are nice gem BU coins. And Madding gets the next one. Gosh, these coins are really pretty. Really nice. I'm going to show you this one. I'm going to back up and we're going to look at this one after I finish looking at it for die variety stuffs. It doesn't look like we have anything for die variety stuffs. Alright, let's take a look at the eye for a doubled eyelid. No doubled eyelids. So we're going to check through trust and we're going to look for doubled extra thickness. We're also going to look for concave outer edges in trust and on liberty. That would signify a class 6 double die or a distorted hub doubling or distended hub doubling. And let's see, looking at the reverse, I don't see anything outside the ordinary on the reverse of this coin, so I'm going to flip it back over and we're going to zoom out a little bit, take a crazy cam look at it. That way you guys can see the quality of the coins that are coming out of this roll. It's really hard to see quality when you're looking at the coin straight up and straight on. There you go. You got one apparent hit out in front of the face, out in the field. But man, this is a bright coin. Beautimus, he said. Beautimus. Yeah, this is even a well-struck coin. Has a bit of a dig between the wheat stems on the bottom, but other than that, man, this is a really nice one. This is at least a 65, possible 66 coin. I'm going to say you guys are getting some good coins out of this roll. So that's for matting. Unfortunately, this one is a regular coin, so we're just going to put it in the regular coin pile. In the Wicked Stepsisters pile. We only got 2 good coins so far, 2 die varieties. The rest of them are just really beautiful looking coins. John Brandon Bow comes up with the next one. Oops, I've got to zoom back in the right spot here. Cover up a little bit. There we go. No, too much. Chuck, learn to drive your machine. All right, here we go. See what we have here. Well, it looks like we've got nothing going on with this coin. Nothing so far, anyway. One of the places that I also check is on the top of the 9. If there's a little curve on the top of the 9, and then the bottom of the B has an extra little bulge, you probably have DDO number 1. DDO number 1 is not highly uncommon, but it is a nice one to have. You can get $10 to $15 for those. And, well, I mean, if you don't have one, you need one. So, if you need one, this would be the place to go. That's for sure. So, what has gone on in the life of Chuck today? Well, I finished working all of the previous reveals that you, ladies and gentlemen, may have been involved in. Had 100 and some odd coins, 120 coins, I guess it was, that needed identification. They all got identification. Now I have to go through and make their flip inserts, make their new flip inserts, and sign the ones that are plate coins. You ask, what's a plate coin? A plate coin is one of the coins that I actually use for photographs for the website out of these rolls. So any number of the coins that are die varieties in here could actually turn into plate coins. They turn into plate coins when I select them because of their condition to take photographs of for the website. Your coin actually ends up in the shining lights of copper coins. What I do then is I sign the flip insert for you and send it to you. That way you know that you have an original plate coin by Copper Coins. And if you should take it to Annex, they may charge you a little extra fee to put it in a pedigree holder, but they will put it in a pedigree holder showing that it is a plate coin for coppercoins.com. Where does the term plate coin come from? Well, plate is what they used to use, plate negatives they used to use when they made newspapers and whatnot. And they would actually burn the plates that they would use to print the books and whatnot, magazines, newspapers, whatever. And so those plates, or a coin that would be used to create the plates for a book, would be considered a plate coin. Well, we've just kept that terminology through the years, even though we don't use plates anymore. Well, generally we don't use plates anymore. I'm sure some probably still do, but most of us have gone to digital presses. Most of us have gone to digital printing. I've always liked that word, digital. Give me some in digital. Digital time. Okay, I don't see anything on this coin either. We're going to keep our hopes up. We're going to keep looking, but I'm telling you now to start thinking about letting it go. Have to get our hopes up over another coin because I think this one's going to turn out to be normal. Very nice coin, but normal. Now I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about this. See how weak the strike is up in that area, that you don't have all the letters filled in completely? You also notice that if I look over here, the field looks a lot cleaner than it does here. Over here, the field has a whole bunch of chatter and stuff in it. Chatter meaning little lines and little marks and dings and pock marks and stuff like that. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about what you think that is, and then we're going to describe it next time I run into it. Some of you probably already know what it is because you've been watching the show, so don't give it up to the newbies. Let the newbies figure it out. Then I'll let them know whether they're right or wrong by telling them what it actually is. I draw for coin number 9 now. Coin number 9 is going to go to Bulldog. My Marine friend. Yeah, I know you know the answer, Coin Dragon. You stopped impressing me a long time ago, brother. But I love you like family. Let's see. This is definitely an RPM. I can see it on the lower serif. I'm just trying to figure out if this is die number 2. I do believe it is die number 2 for the roll, but I can't remember exactly what I had used. I think it was a die scratch under the T. Is that right? No. I know I had myself a marker set for number 2, but I can't remember now what it was. Oh, there it is. 2 little die scratches below the G of God. North and south scratches through the date area. Is that it? Yep, there they are right there. You can see north and south scratches through the date. I like this, though. This is a really nice marker. Really nice marker. A set of parallel scratches pointing at the G of God. I like that very much. I think we're going to stick with that. Why? Well, it's my show. You want to stick with something else, you can go make your own show, right? Okay, so this. When planchettes are put through the system, they're counted, they're sorted, they're bathed, they're washed, they're tumbled. They're counted, they're put in tubes, they go down the tube, and then they end up getting thrown into the chamber to be minted into a coin. All of that creates a whole bunch of little specklies all over the coin. Little specklies, little lines and marks and dings and hits and pings and all kinds of stuff. Well, when the coin is struck, if it's not struck totally and fully, and it's not a very strong strike, you end up with these little puck marks that came on the planchet. They end up on the coin. You can see them on the coin because they never struck completely out of the planchet. And you see right up between the top half of the P, L, and U how you've got a really nice looking design of little tiny scars. Those little tiny scars are molecules of steel moving around on the die because it strikes coins with 39,000 pounds of force. Well, those little marks are called flow lines. And flow lines are something that you see on coins normally. It's what makes your luster. The light catches half of your flow line and it doesn't catch the other half. And as you twirl the coin around, that light plays in those little flow lines. And those flow lines, if you zoom them up to like 200 times, they look like little canyons. Whole bunch of little canyons running all the way through the coin. Well, the problem when you don't strike up a coin all the way and it gets kind of a weak strike, or it has grease and grime and grit and stuff, is that you end up with parts of the original surface of the planchet come through that have not been struck up well. And so you end up seeing all of those little puck marks and all those little other things all over the coin where it didn't strike up completely. So the weak strike areas are going to look like that. And so the stronger strike areas, the areas where the strike actually struck the coin up very well, you see flow lines or luster. And way up close, those flow lines are different from die scratches. Let me show you flow lines. All these little lines that are running east and west or side to side across your screen are flow lines. Every one of those is a little tiny canyon. Let me try to get it in better focus. It's really hard to focus at this level. There we go. Is a little tiny canyon that catches the light in one direction when you twirl the coin. And then when you twirl the coin away, it goes away. It comes and goes. And then this is a scuff mark. This has flattened all those little canyons. And so you can see it on the coin as a shiny spot, usually. Now, that thing next to the T that I have running straight up and down in the middle of your screen right now, that is a little patch of die scratches. Die scratches are sunken into the die because it scratches, just like a key scratch on a car. It's sunken in to the surface of the die, so that when the die mints a coin, you get the exact opposite effect of what's in the die on the coin, so those lines are going to be raised. So these little lines right here, these little lines of mine, I'm going to let them shine. They're raised. So you know that those little lines are scratches in the die that come out as positive relief marks. Positive relief meaning standing out on the coin. So you have a whole bunch of little die scratches here. You got your flow lines here. You got scuff marks. So you got all kinds of things that make up the surface of a die that transfer directly over to the coin. And when we can match these up, one coin to another coin to another coin, we call that markers. So the marker for like that last coin that I showed you was that the two little scratches below the G remained from one strike to the next strike to the next strike to the next strike, and you can see them in the coin. And you can match those coins together just like you can match fingerprints together to one person. Because every die is absolutely unique. Every single one. No matter what, as soon as a die is hung to start making coins, it is unique. Now you can see we've got east and west die scratches on this coin. So the die was scratched going east and west. There's also some die scratches running, I'm going to call it on the compass, it's going to be northeast from the date. You've got other die scratches there. Then you've got scuff marks. These are scuff marks up here. So this is actually a little bit of a scratch on the coin. Scuff mark meaning that it's not a deep scratch, it's just a barely a scratch that affects the surface. Then you've got hits on the chin. Those are hits. They're actually deep cuts caused by either another coin, a key, or something metal, something hard. And that's a cut right there too, so that's a pretty heavy mark. Just to give you an idea of what we call the different things that we call. Now you can see these die scratches here appear to be circling the center of the die. The reason for that? They were probably using a rotary tool that was centered near the center of the die, something like a buffing wheel of some sort. Now, die scratches like that are called concentric. Concentric, in case you don't know, means around the center. Here's another patch of your weak stuff that just shows that you had a weak strike in the area. There's a few hits there too, but the little tiny pieces of chatter there are all about a weaker strike. That's why you don't have them up here and you do have them down here. You don't have them over here, but you do have them here. All the places that got completely struck up do not have those marks. So like right along the bottom of the lapel, you have them again. Another area that was a weak strike. So let's see. Take a good look at this coin. So I'm teaching you guys stuff and I'm missing actually looking at the coin. So when somebody says it wasn't struck well on that side, or it has a weak strike on the reverse, that doesn't hold water, folks. And here's why. When a coin is struck, it's struck on both sides at the same time. You can't have one side without the other. So given that coins are struck on both sides at once, you can't have a strong strike on one side and a weak strike on the other side. It's not like they strike one side and flip the coin over and strike the other side. They strike at the same time. So when you have what people are calling a weak strike on this side or that side, more likely what you have is an earlier die state die paired with a later die state die, meaning that one die was earlier in its lifetime, meaning that it had sharper design features like this one, has somewhat sharp design features, and then it would be paired. Here's another one of our... Now this one should have... I'm going to interrupt myself here because we found another one. You can see that split lower serif there. This looks very, very much like the other one that we saw that had the lower split serif, but at the same time, that one had a marker of the two die scratches under the G of God. So we're going to go look at that and see if they're there. Lo and behold, they are there. So we do have another example of that same die again. That's how attribution works. Attribution works in that you are taking a coin that appears to have something on it that matches another coin, and then you're comparing them to one another to see if they indeed do have the same markers. Markers are those scratches, all those things that you see. See that little thing between the N and the U in unum there? If I got the other coins out, you'd see that on those too, because that's part of the die. That's on the die. It's standing out on the coin. It's in relief as opposed to in incuse. I'm just a babbling fool this afternoon. A lot of talking. I drew Silver Rufus's name and didn't even know whose name I drew. That was a beautiful coin, too. That was a very nice, bright coin. All of these coins are in really nice shape. You guys are going to like them. Alejandro. Alejandro comes up next, and we have a nice RPM. Look at that. Sweet. This one's going to be different from the other two that we've seen so far. This is a very nice RPM. This one has a little, looks like a little die gouge on the top of the 9. See that little thing on the top of the 9 sticking out? I think that is going to be part of the die. I think we're going to see it again. If we see this die again, I think we're going to see that again. But just in case that's a fleck of metal or something else that doesn't actually constitute a marker, we're going to find a marker. Now see, these lines here look like they're abrasion lines on the coin. These are not die scratches. These are die scratches because they end where the coin has relief. So you got this one coming in toward the mouth here. All these little die scratches coming into the nose, the forehead, the mouth, they end. When you get deeper on the coin, you're actually looking not at die scratches, but you're looking at abrasions on the coin. So this coin has haze on it like it has been wiped at one point in time, and that's very possible that they did that before they stuck it in the roll. Now look at the other side here, and we're going to see if we have anything on the other side. We actually have a very nice bright coin. We've got that typical chatter that comes from a slightly weak strike or a dirty die. It's dirty die, clean it up. Let's see. Okay, so we've got east and west die scratches in the throat and chin area. I'm going to use that, and then we've got this one going northeast out of the chin, out of the crick between the chin and the mouth. And so we've got a nice RPM there. We're going to call this die number 3. So die number 3 for the roll is for Alejandro, coin number 12. Yeah, and we move on to coin number 13. God, I wish my wife thought that. The more you blab, the more I learn. My wife just wishes I'd shut up sometimes. Hey, no penny talk at the table. Yeah, I think I see another little RPM, I do believe. Hey, get this thing in better focus and get my light under control. Okay, there's my focus. Getting my light under control as we speak. I'm going to have to pass on this one and say that I don't think so, and I'll have to come back to it. And when I get finished doing these rules, I always go back through them again. Just want everyone to know that I never only look at a coin once. Not when it comes under this microscope, because this microscope makes it a little difficult to be able to discern exactly what's going on. My other microscope with my more professional setup, my more professional light, makes it easier for me to see all the little details. Pick out all the little flaws, all the little things, and all the comparison markers and everything else, and I get to see all the split serifs I want to see. So with that, I'll be able to tell whether or not this is a RPM. Right now, I'm just going to skip it and say that it's not, because I don't want to go too minor. The problem with going too minor is that once you get too minor in looking at RPMs and such, you're not giving people that have circulated coins or that have later die state coins, you're not giving them a fair shake, because all that really little minor stuff disappears as the die is used. And I don't want to list stuff that disappears. I want to list stuff that'll still be there regardless of how die worn your coin is. I've used a term a few times now that some of you may not be familiar with. It's called die state. Die state tells you the age of the die at the time a coin was struck. It has nothing to do with the scratches, cracks, or anything else on the die. It completely and totally has to do with flow lines, the presence of flow lines and the length of flow lines. If you've got a lot of flow lines that are chewing up the outside edges of your lettering, you have a later die state coin. If you have a feathering like this, that you can see just little light feathers coming off the outside edges of the letters, then you have a mid die state coin. That's what this one is. Mid die state is still rather sharp and rather attractive in appearance, but it's not as crisp as an early die state, which would be a coin that barely has any flow lines and it has very, very nice crispy outer edges to the lettering. Now, I do have a number of intermittent die stages between those for the people who are really geeky and like to study this stuff in depth. Here, for instance, is the difference between a very early die state and an early die state coin. Very early die state is less than 1% of all coins minted. By the time a die has been through a couple of thousand strikes, it's no longer a very early die state die. So here's another one of those. This is die 3 again. It's a very nice one. I'll be surprised if I can't find this one already listed. So there's the die scratch coming up out of the crook of the chin. It's where we're looking for it. These things are kind of full of markers. But that was a very nice RPM there. Okay, now this reverse, just to tell you, just to give you the fat and skinny of it, this is a mid die state reverse. You can see flow lines, but it doesn't really affect the outer edges of the design all that much. So this is a mid die state. I'm going to start doing that a little bit more often. I'm going to start talking to you about die state so that when you're watching, as you watch, you can start to get a good feel of what the die state is. Because a lot of people are really confused about that. And it's actually very simple. It's just a matter of learning it. There is nothing complicated about doing this stuff. It's a matter of attention to detail. If you have good attention to detail, you can beat this monster anytime. It's another mid die state obverse now. And you see how sharp they are, the edges around God and in. This is just past early die state. So we call this, very originally, so we call this early mid die state. How about that? So I said we have the intermittent ones for the geeks who really like to study stuff hard. And we do. There is actually a grand total of 7 different die states. There's very early die state, early mid die state, late mid die state, late die state, and very late die state. Try that real fast 3 times. Or if you want it in the abbreviated form, there's VEDS, EDS, EMDS, MDS, LMDS, LDS, and VLDS, EIEIO. Somebody's going to play my voice backwards. I'm going to be worshiping the devil or something. Sometimes I like my early mid. Sometimes I like my mid a little bit early. I always like to drink coffee during the early to mid. Not the very early. Very early is when you have to go to the airport before it gets light outside. I don't do that very often. Don't like doing it at all. Here is another RPM. This is one of the fatties. So this one being one of the fatties, this is going to have that pair of die scratches up by the G of God. Okay, so let's take a look. See if I'm right. Of course Chuck's right. When is he not? I didn't say that. Coin Dragon, what are you putting me up to this for? What are you doing over there? You hate to be in my head. I wonder what goes on in my head. I don't even know. I don't pay attention. It just comes out. So this is a die number 2 for DN. Very nice coin though. Oh my gosh, these things are nice. Really, really nice Gem BU coins. I had another die number 2 and it didn't make it over here, so now I'm going to be digging through the roll again. For sure. Because I've got a die number 2 that is in the normal stack, and I don't know how that exactly happened, but it did. Hey, Coin Junkie. Very early, mid, late, and very late. Yes, Randy, you got it. Silver Rufus gets the next one. At least somebody listens, right? Got nothing on this one. Not around the date of the mint mark. So let's keep looking. See all these little lines that stick out all over the place. I mean, they are just all over the place. You can see them here and there and everywhere. Those are die scratches. So some sort of a tool, usually a rotary brush or a wire brush of some sort, is used to try to clean grime, rust, or clash marks off of a die. Clash marks being the marks that are created when the designs hit each other without a planchet between them. And your clash, those are best cleaned off with some sort of a wire brush, but that leaves scratches on the die, and that's what you see. Have seen a couple of few haze spots on some of these coins, but they're not bad at all. I mean, yeah, once in a while, like that right there, you'll see a haze spot, and that's just a plasticizer that has decided to apply itself to the surface of the coin and spread. Generally, those are relatively simple to get off with a little bit of xylene. Rose Dragon, you've got my heart in your hand. It's exactly the same, only different. I say that all the time. It's exactly the same, only different. Hey, here's another one of those. What do you want to bet? Okay, so here's a closer marker that we can use. We don't have to go all the way up to the G. But do you see those little diagonal die scratches right up above the date? We're going to be able to use those. We don't have to use these. We can use these right here, and it's going to tell us the same story. They're just a little smaller and a little bit harder to see, but if you notice that we've got a very fat-looking mint mark. Mint mark just looks very hefty. Hefty. Then we know that we've got that die variety. No need to look forward or farther with regard to any other variety things such as double dies or repunch mint mark or anything else. Once you've already seen a die pair, you've seen it. It's not going to change. You don't develop double dies. Double dies are on there when the die is born. So double dies and repunch mint marks are going to exist on a die from the time the die first struck its first coin all the way up to the point that it's pulled off the press and retired. Am I tripping you out, Rose Dragon coins? CVS. CVS is going to get the next coin. This is the next coin for CVS. Did I put that? I did put that. Let me look at this. Hang on just a second. Yeah, that's one of my RPMs, and I stuck it in the normal pile. I have to watch for that to stop doing that. Okay, so this one is going to be a normal, and it's going to go in the normal pile. That's where those belong. Yep, it's going to be a normal. It's going to go in the normal pile. RPM, repunch mint mark. Repunch mint mark comes when... Okay, the first thing to tell you is prior to 1990, all mint marks were placed into the individual dies by hand by a worker using a punch tool, like a leather punch. And they would put their little punch tool in the right place, tap it with a hammer, and you get a letter on the steel die. And when that steel die turns around and starts making coins, all the coins made by that steel die have that same letter in them. Well, not only is the letter going to be the same, but exactly how the letter was punched into the die is going to be the same as well. So if I tap my little letter into the die and then accidentally move it a little bit and tap it again, or if it bounces while I'm tapping, it's going to create doubling on that letter. That letter being the mint mark, now you have doubling on your mint mark on the die, so that every coin struck by that die is going to have that same doubling on the mint mark letter. Well, those can be cataloged by the die by looking at markers on the die and looking at the doubling on the mint mark and discerning the difference from one die to the next. We can catalog them and use die numbers to tell which one's which. Some people even go so far as to memorize a lot of the die numbers so that they don't even have to look in a book. They can look at a coin and tell you what die number you have. I'm going to interrupt myself for just a moment for this special report we've run into a depression in a coin. This depression was caused by a ball of grease or grime that was sitting on the die when this coin was struck. That causes a depression on the coin because you have a hump of crap on the coin, or on the die, and that hump of crap keeps the lettering from coming through. I'm going to use the word crap in my video. It's not made for children. So if you're a child and you can't handle crap, then you either need to leave the channel or you need to cover your ears every time I say crap. And I'm going to say it a lot, so you may as well leave the channel if you cannot handle the word crap. So here is my little ball of crap, and then I've got this area out here that kind of looks like it did with the weak strike, except the difference is you've got a full strike. Look at the O in 1. It's complete and full. So you've got a decent strike. You've just got junk crap on the die. And a little ball of that crap caused this depression in the coin. It's a little crater. Looks like a moon crater. No extra value. It's not really an error. It's just a piece of crap on the die when it struck the coin. When they're dramatic, like me, and they're very flamboyant, like me, they can be worth a little bit. Not much, just a little bit. Okay, so to get back to the subject that I was already speaking about as soon as I can remember what it was, I'm over 50. I don't remember stuff real easily. Is that when you have an RPM, when you have a repunched mint mark, you have a double punched mint mark on a die that transfers to all of the coins minted by that die. As we move along through the years, we can list all of these RPMs, repunched mint marks. See, there's another example of that one. If you look real carefully, you can see a split at the lower serif saying that there's more than one lower serif. I'm going to zoom in on it so you can see it real easily. You see how the bottom, you can see a cut along the side of the mint mark. Let me bring my lighting up. Let me move it in the right position. Okay, so if you're looking at this picture, your D is upside down. That's on purpose to be able to give you the right lighting. If you look to your right or to the left of the D, to your right, there is a, looks like it's been speared by an arrow. There's a little die scratch running directly into the lower part of the mint mark. If you look right in front of that arrow, you'll see a cut. Looks like a butt on the corner of the D. That's where your rounded serif and rounded serif meet up. There's two of them there. Given that there's two serifs down there, that means you have two D punches that are very, very close to one another. That is a repunch mint mark. That is a recognizable repunch mint mark in the fact that it has a very fat looking D. Your position in accordance with where it is to the 9 and 5 are going to be the same every time because mint marks do not move. So this one, if I write everything up and you can see it, you can see that it's only just a hair closer to the 9 than it is to the 5. And if you draw a line straight across the bottom of the 9 to the bottom of the 5, you're going to see that the D does not sit on that line. It sits below that line. So yes, these are butt crack mint marks. Butt crack mint marks with crap on the die. This is a very profane video. So I watch how far I carry this. YouTube will delete this one too. They deleted another one of my videos because I had music playing in the background. Believe that? Yeah. You guys will never ever see reveal number 129 again. It's gone. Gone for good. It was a 1969 S roll. We didn't find much of anything in it, but you're not going to see anything in it at all now. Coin Junkie, your virgin ears can handle this. Need you not worry. Oh, I don't reveal much of anything. Not the things that don't need to be revealed. I just tell you all the things you need to know. I'm that one little spire of truth in the middle of a world of lies. You can see it again right there, see? You got yourself another example of that same die. I've only got 3 of them sitting over there. I know I've run into at least 5 or 6 of them, so I've put a couple of them in the normal coin pile, and I'll have to go back and find them. Which I can remember to do. See, there's your other marker right there, but the marker we said we were going to use are the little diagonal die scratches above the 9-5 of the date. Because all that's on the die that struck the coin, and you're basically just transferring a fingerprint from the die straight to the middle of the coin, you're going to see those markers. They're going to develop, they're going to move, they're going to change, they're going to evolve. Let's just say it that way, not move. They're going to evolve as the die strikes coins. And perhaps at some point there could be a die crack that runs right across the right wheat. But right now we don't have that die crack, so we don't know that that marker exists until this die strikes another couple of thousand coins. And strikes another couple of thousand coins, and we start to see that die crack develop. We can watch it for progression. Progression would mean that the die crack would get longer, would get bigger, would get wider. And we can see more stuff. This one's for Thomas. Thomas, I'm going to make sure that I put yours in the die number 2 pile because we have a substantial number of die number 2s in this roll so far. Tim Morrell, we're going to take a look at your coin. And this one appears normal. Normal. And nothing else on the obverse. Let me take a look at the reverse real quick. Well, you guys are getting 3 for 1. I haven't even had any caffeine today. I'm sitting here with a full cup of coffee. I've not even taken a sip out of it. Yeah, it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I get it. I drink my coffee a little late. I've already had my haircut today. First haircut in almost 5 months. Feels great. I had a haircut in mid to late January and thought, I'll get another haircut sometime soon. End of February comes around, I thought, I should probably go over and get a haircut. Nah, I got other things to do this week. Then bam, COVID hits. Well, needless to say, all the places that would cut my hair shut down. And I had nothing going on with my hair except it just growing and getting more and more in my way. I don't know how you people with long hair do it. I have no idea. I had longer hair when I was in high school, and as soon as I graduated high school, I went into the military. And they cut all my hair off. I kind of left it that way. I got used to it, and I actually liked it that way. Ooh, there goes my camera, deciding to fizzle out on me just a little bit there. You need to see the haircut. You guys are weird. Weird and crazy and yes and whatever. You need to see my haircut. All right. There's my haircut. Nice and short. They brought me back to the old military ways. Like my very short hair. Works for me very well. All right, so we're going to go back to the not Chuck Furry camera view anymore here. So, get back to business. Nah, I don't want to let it grow. In other words, Coin Dragon, I've seen your hair. I don't want to let mine grow. Nothing against your hair. It looks good on you, but it looked like crap on me. That and plus, I just don't even want to deal with... I feel like 10 degrees cooler now than I did before. I mean, I almost had a panic attack yesterday. I started getting hot in the middle of a cool house because I had too much hair on my head. It starts to definitely affect me in negative ways. This is another RPM right here. This one looks like it's going to be die number 1. And if I can remember what kind of a marker we had for die number 1, I'd be able to not fill this space with blabber, but be able to tell you exactly. Oh, there it was. Yeah, that's right. Die scratch under the T. Big hefty die scratch under the T right there. That's what it was. See, as soon as I see it again, I'll remember it. Who cut the hair? Oh, I don't know her name. Her name was Ronnie. It was a lady. Her name was Ronnie. It was at the Great Clips, I think. Yeah, Great Clips. Over on Davis, and I don't remember the name of the other street. I haven't lived here very long. I just know where I'm going. I don't know the names of all the streets. So this is going to be die number 1 here. This is for CVS. Get ourselves another die number 1. We've got 3 different RPMs now that we're looking for in this roll, plus anything else we haven't already run into. McCrimmon Parkway. That's the name. Davis McCrimmon Parkway. In Morrisville, North Carolina. Here's another one of them. Look, we're going to just use this marker. There it is right there. We've got our little diagonal die scratches up above the 9, but this is die number 2 again. Okay, we will if you must. We're going to go look and prove to ourselves that that's what this is. We're going to look at the other markers right there. Oh, one of the Great Clips got... Yeah, it wasn't this one, no. I got up there and a lady shows me this card. And it says something about, in the last 14 days, have you had a fever? In the last 14 days, have you had symptoms of COVID? And the last 14 days, have you been tested positive for COVID or whatever? And she shows me the card and she says, can you answer these questions for me? I said, yes, I can. Do you want me to? She said, yes, please. I said, no, no, and no. She said, okay, do you have a mask? Yes, I do. Okay. Go in and wait in chair number 1. So, okay. So I went in, I sat down in chair number 1. About 5-10 minutes later, she opens the door, looks at me, and she says, you need to be wearing the mask. I said, oh, okay. You just asked me if I had one. Yes, I have one. It doesn't mean I'm going to wear it because, well, I'm kind of the opinion that the mask does very little for you or anyone else. And that's kind of been more or less sort of proven out. Another RPM here. This is another one of those. So we should have the diagonal die scratches above the 9, which we do right there. And we should also have our die scratches below the G of God right there. So we have another die number 2 here. This is another die number 2. So yeah, a wife has been in medical for many, many years, and I have a good friend who is a doctor, and they kind of say that wearing masks out in public is kind of like, well, doing you no good at all, pretty much. It's sort of a mental protective measure more than it is an actual physical protective measure. If there are droplets small enough to infect you in the air, they're small enough to go through any cloth mask. Now, if you have an N95 or an N99 mask, then you're doing a little bit better because now you can do particles of 30/100ths of a millimeter. But if you're just wearing a regular homegrown sewn mask, you're not really getting a whole lot out of it. Whether you know so or not, I can't help, but I can tell you so. Here we have another die number 2, and another die number 2 for the day right here. There is our diagonal die scratches above the 9. Here are our die scratches below the G. So we have another one of those. I'm going to check it for errors real quick. Because even if you have, say for instance that you had this RPM and you're looking for the RPM, as soon as you find the RPM, you toss it off to the side because you know it's the RPM. You could be missing like a cracked planchet. You could be missing a partially clipped planchet. You could be missing die obstructions, massive die cracks, cuds, pre-cut die breaks. You could be missing all kinds of stuff on the other side of the coin. Please always make sure you look at both sides of the coin, even though you know you have something on one side and there's no doubling on the other side. Doubling isn't the only thing that's interesting on these coins. Now this one, we've been talking about die state for a while. This one is a later die state coin. And you can see here how the outer edges of the word trust, you see how they're kind of really feathered. They're feathered kind of badly. And there's a nice little die crack on the head to kind of illustrate my point and help me out, is that dies usually fail when they get into later die states. And you can see that there is basically no edge to the outermost lettering of In God We Trust. That tells you you've got a late die state coin. Now this side may be that late and it may not be. Oh, it is. This one is. Pretty late die state. All of the outer edge lettering and design features are nearly missing that edge because of die flow, because of molecules of steel moving outward like rain droplets on a rainy day on a windshield driving down the highway. You know how the rain droplets all move outward. Well, that's what happens with molecules of steel as it's minting coins. Those little molecules move outward, and after a while, they just start to cut out the letters altogether, and the letters just kind of look ugly. Under a microscope, that is. If you look at them just under a loop, or you look at them to grade the coin or to buy the coin, a lot of times that can actually make the coin look kind of neat because the luster is a little brighter. This is another die number 2 here. There is your marker. Here's your sign. That's coin number 31. That's another thing. I've talked to my son about all this. My son's 20. Good gosh. He's 24 years old. He lives in Sweden. And over in Sweden, they decided to take a herd mentality way of looking at it. Is that they just let everyone be exposed. Let everyone do their normal daily routine, their daily business. And most people who catch it are either mildly symptomatic or asymptomatic altogether. So they allow everyone to catch it, so you've got a strong workforce that has already got it, already gotten over it, and is immune to it. And then your weaker people, they segregated. The weaker people have to wear masks. The weaker people have to stay indoors. The weaker people are the ones who are protected. Not everyone. This country went way overboard with that. So your barber is now open and you didn't even know it. You've been walking around looking like a hippie thinking that you were doing the world some good. Yeah, I got rid of that hippie look as quickly as I could. But it's, you could consider it thinning the herd, but I think it's more of a preservation of societal norm. And the preservation of societal norm is to get rid of all these masks and all that kind of stuff, because, this pandemic has actually proven to be not really much worse than the typical flu, and we don't wear masks in a typical situation anyway. And the typical flu spreads pretty much just like this pandemic does. The only difference is that we have shots that most of the time the vaccines can protect you against the flu, and we have nothing to protect you against this. But I don't think that in itself is any reason to ruin the economy of a country. And of course, with anything that happens, you're going to have theorists. You're going to have the conspiracy theorist people who think that one party does what they do just to ruin the other party, and they'll take anyone down with them they can, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not really necessarily for all that, because this is a pandemic. I don't really think anyone created it, although it is possible. I'm just saying I don't think it's likely. Why would you create something to gain power when it could kill you? It's kind of like, pushing the car off the cliff and standing on the car to see if it actually compacts when it lands. It's like you're killing yourself on purpose. For what purpose? It has actually been proven that coronavirus has been in the United States since January. So all this sudden stoppage of passengers on cruise ships and stuff like that in March was totally unnecessary and unwarranted. They did it anyway. Right? I know 2 people who likely had coronavirus in December or January. One tested for the antibodies and tested positive for the antibodies, so we know that she had the coronavirus or has developed antibodies to the coronavirus while sick in January. And our roommate, the girl who lives with us, was sick in December, late December, early January, with a very terrible flu-like illness that lasted almost 2 weeks, and then she got over it. Neither of us ever caught anything that I know of. I did have a fever at one point in time, but this was in February. Or actually, it was in March. It was in March. I mean, I think I had it because, well, this COVID outbreak suddenly came around right about the same time that people were getting hay fever. And I'm pretty sure I had hay fever because as soon as I started taking Claritin for it, clearing up the hay fever, well, that kind of went away. Your government's going to tell you all kinds of things, and I'm not saying you should or shouldn't believe what the government tells you, but I am saying that you should at least do your own investigation before you believe anything. It's one of the biggest problems with Facebook these days. There's so many people who believe just about anything that's ever posted. I double fact check everything. I see something about, oh, Tim Conway died. No, I better go check. So I Google Tim Conway. Yep, Tim Conway did die. And I see, thing about different famous people, you usually see it on Facebook before you see it anywhere else. If you work for a living, running a Facebook group, well, not a group, but I don't make the living at Facebook. I get Facebook people to come to my living. This is my living. This is what I do. This is my profession. You can be very quietly jealous if you like. Well, the only thing that being overprotected is going to do is it's going to basically delay the inevitable. And the inevitable is going to be that we are all at some point going to be exposed to it. Whether we get it or not, it's a different story. But the mutation that could be up for grabs sometime this fall or maybe next spring could be worse and easier to catch and harder to defeat than all strains prior to. And the strains prior to were the simpler strains, meaning that they were easier to kill, easier to defeat. And so you end up with a strain that you have not developed antibodies to help take care of it, like people who caught it earlier on a different strain. And you are also very open to something that could be very easily deadly. The number of things that could happen, strains, alterations in the makeup of the DNA of the virus itself, could actually go into a hyperdrive type development where it could kill a lot of people. So you never know. Hey, farm dog. But either way, I don't think wearing a mask while you're getting a haircut is going to help you. That's the bottom line, for me anyway. I just don't think it's feasible. It may be prudent, but it's not feasible. It's not something that, it's like, trying to get a haircut. First of all, somebody's finger's all over your hair anyway. So you're not protected against their little germs they have all over their hands. Hey, there's a die number 3 right there. The best one of all. Die number 3 right there. East and west die scratches through the date. This one's going to go to Silver Rufus. This is die number 3 of this die. There's his little cigar coming up out of his chin. So I've got 3 different dies that I'm working with here.
Okay, somebody type this in. Please, type this into your browser for me. It's tinyurl.com. tinyurl.com/cc reveals. CCREVEALS. Tell me if you see a spreadsheet. There we go. Bookmark that page right there, because anybody who's involved in this, like Silver Rufus just got this number 3 right here. Well, I'm calling this die number 3 for the roll, just to keep the roll situated, but this could be die number 42. I have no idea which die number it is right now. There's too many of them for me to memorize. So I'm going to look this up later, but until I look it up and until I know what it is, Silver Rufus's coin, number 37, from reveal number 144, is going to go into that sheet as undetermined. When I do determine what it is and get an identification on it, or when I actually take it out of the box to look at it and tell which one it is, that's when I'm going to change the status on it. I'm going to change it to currently looking for die information or something to that effect. And when I do find the die number for it, I'll put the die number in the notes. And then I'll put what date I expect to ship the coin out. I've got a lot of them from the last 2 weeks that'll be going out tomorrow, because I have photographed everything that need to be photographed. And once I do tell you the die number of the coins that you got, you will also be able to tell if your coin was chosen as a plate coin. If it was, it'll say plate coin. You'll also know whether or not it was a new listing to the system, because it will say new listing. I can't really make it a whole lot easier than that. Yeah, I probably could, but I know you guys are smart, so you'll figure it out. Hello, Hector. Fox Run Forge. Fox Run Forge, I do believe, already has a plate coin. He's only been here with us for a couple of weeks now. And he has a plate coin, I do believe. I'll bring my sheet up and see, because I can do this in a pretty quick hurry. I have a hot link to it. And here we go. Let's see. Fox Run Forge. No, I'm guessing not a plate coin. That's just by guessing. This thing's not reacting very quickly. There are also, once in a while, there's going to be some coins that I'm going to take out of the die variety pile and slap them back into the normal coin pile. Now, see, Fox Run Forge got a 1953 D1MM036. It's a 1953 DRPM that was in reveal number 139. It was coin number 4 in the roll. And it's a newly listed repunch mint mark, so it says new listing next to his name. So here's coin number 39, I'm sorry. Number 39, Mike Birchman. Well, this looks like it could be a number 1. Could be a number 1. Let's go up and take a look and see if our die scratches under the T. Yes, it is. So this is a number 1. So now we've seen number 1, number 2, number 3 a number of times. So this is a number 1 for the roll. Goes to Mike Birchman. And there's that. And we're off. You were in the hospital over the weekend. Now, you didn't make it into these. These were on Tuesday night. Last night, you weren't there. The ones I'm talking about were ones that were from a week to 2 weeks ago. So you were in the hospital. What were you in the hospital for? If you don't mind saying. If you don't want to, then that's fine too. But if you were in the hospital, maybe we need to do some thinking for you. Positive thoughts help. Not a die variety here. This one's for Tim Morrell. I got my eye twitching. I hate it when my eye twitches. I'm trying to stare at something and my eye won't stare because I keep blinking. All right, that's coin number 40. This one doesn't happen to have anything on it, so Tim Morrell, we're going to bag and tag it and move it on. Going to go to coin number 41 now. Now, regardless of what put you in the hospital, we are very concerned, so keep us updated. Been watching over Starbuck Jeffin coins recently because, well, he ended up having to go to the ER over chest pain a couple of weeks ago. He's doing pretty well. A massive heart attack Sunday. Oh my gosh. That is definitely not good. But did you happen to get my box before you ended up in the hospital? My package to you? I sent you a package. I just want to make sure you got it. All right, Adam Connor gets coin number 42. Adam Connor gets coin number 42, and coin number 42 is a die number 1. This is a die number 1 RPM here. Die number 1 for the roll. It's not RPM number 1. We don't know which RPM number it is yet. There's your markers. Well, Fox Run Forge, we certainly hope everything gets on the mend and quickly for you. You become a part of the family. We're watching for you. We're looking for you to be here. So even if you decide that you don't need anything at the time being, don't be a stranger. Just come back and say hi to us. Okay, I did send you a package, though. You should be getting it within the next day or two. Wait a minute. Did I do it again? Is this an RPM? Yeah, this is an RPM. And I tossed it in the normal pile. I'm having a very bad habit today. I don't like that I'm having a very bad habit, but I am. Justin Bussman. It's coin number 43. There are a lot of RPMs in this roll. This is another one. It's another die number 1. You can see the doubling coming down on the lower serif there. Jeremy, let me think. I've gotten boxes from a number of people, so I'm not sure. Let me think. No, I do not have the boxes from you yet. I did get boxes from Techstar, and I got boxes from a couple of other people, but I've not received yours yet. They should get here the next day or two. My mailman hates me, and I don't know why. Okay, so we got ourselves another example of die number 2 here. Launch is in 10 minutes away. Well, let's hurry up and get this done because we're running over on time anyway. And I will check out as soon as I'm done here so we can all get over and watch the launch of SpaceX. This one's for Sureg. And this one is a later die state normal coin for Sireg. No hub doubling on this one. Well, that's okay, Rose Dragon. Why don't you just get on a regular computer with a regular screen sometime and bring up the save of this feed. Will be on the YouTube channel indefinitely, so you can always go back and watch it again. It's kind of like how I like to watch movies. I'll watch through a movie and then I know that I missed something, so I'll go and watch it again. And for sure, when I watch it again, I wonder to myself, how did that happen and get past me? So I'm always watching a movie a second time. Only once in a great while do I watch a movie more than twice. That's a die number 1 for you there. This one's going to have the die scratch below the T. Right there. Big giant die scratch below the T of trust. And take a look at the reverse on this one real quick. We've got 6 coins left. 6 coins remain. Well, I appreciate that, Rose Dragon Coins. It's nice to know that people learn from my blabber. At least I know my wife was wrong. That's all that matters to me. Well, she's not wrong. I love her anyway, even if she is. Alejandro. See what we get here with Alejandro. We have a normal coin here. This one is in normal, 1958D. Oh boy, oh boy. We're going to have another show at 7 o'clock this evening. It's a 1962D, and then another one at 9 o'clock this evening. It'll be a 1946D. And 1946D should be very exciting. The 1962D, we're going to play the hit and miss game. 1962D is one of those issues that, well, when you find stuff, you find a lot of good stuff. But when you don't find anything, you don't find anything. And man, there can be a desolate desert out there headed to the water. There's a lot of dies out there for the 1962D that show nothing exciting, but there are a few that really do. Paul Hampton next. Paul Hampton on coin number 47. We've got 3 coins left after this one. This is going to be another die number 2. Another die number 2 here. There's your heavy die scratches. And flip over to the other side and look for any error issues. No error issues. That's Paul Hampton, die number 2. And here is, for coin number 48, Bill Betts. Bill Betts gets coin number 48, and it is another die number 2. Another die number 2 there. Here's our die scratches again. And we have no error issues on the obverse. Let's take a look for error issues on the reverse. If you go back and watch some of my earlier videos, I do get into the difference between errors and die varieties and varieties in some of them. I get into die flow lines on some of them, die state. I get into grading on a few of them. Complete strikes, incomplete strikes. I get into the weakness areas on the different designs. Like for instance, the area of Liberty in between the letters of Liberty is a place to commonly find die cracks. Die cracks and little chips and breaks and stuff in the die. Alright, coin number 49 goes to Tim Morrell. And Tim Morrell comes out with not a special coin, not an RPM, not a double die. Little hit right across the end of the right across the end of the wheat lines. Nothing there. Well, that's number 49. Got one coin left. And only one coin left, and it goes to Adam Chambers. There's coin number 50. And it is another die number 2. Another die number 2 for the roll. So we've got this. There's our 2 die scratches. And take a look the other way around. Nothing there. And so, on that note, I'll say goodbye immediately to the people who want to go watch the launch, and then I will go through the roll in brief. I know there are a couple of die varieties. Hello, Wheatback Attack. I know there are a couple of die varieties that I missed in this roll the first time around, so I'm going to go through these again. But die number 1 right now, what I have are these coins, 1, 26, and 39. And that's die number 1 for the roll. Then I have a die number 2 for the roll. Die number 2 for the roll. I'm going to flip through them so I can see the numbers later. That's 12 of them. These 12 belong to Shannon, Deanne, Jeff Dunn, Thomas, Farm Dog, Sir Reg, Bill Betts, Adam Connor, Justin Busman, Paul Hampton, Bill Betts, and Adam Chambers. And then we have 2 examples so far of die number 3. I'm sure there are going to be at least one more. 12 and 37, and those belong to Alejandro and Silver Rufus. So I appreciate it, folks. They canceled the launch. Oh, that doesn't surprise me. I don't know why that doesn't surprise me. But I am going to go get my works done for today. Get a few things taken care of. And then I shall return for the... What is it going to be? The 7 o'clock. We've got a 7 o'clock reveal on a 1962D original machine wrapped roll. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. It's roll reveal number 145. So that's 2.5 hours from now. And then we've got a 1946D tubed roll 2 hours after that. 1946D tubed roll 2 hours after that. And then we've got a 1956D roll tomorrow at noon, and then a 51D tomorrow at 3 p.m. And then Friday, we have a 1942 roll to open at 9 p.m. So I appreciate it, folks. You guys have a great afternoon. Be back in a couple hours. We'll chat again. Thank you.